Hi, my name is Michael Hoelzer,
And I'm Alex.
and our presentation is over a software called Streamlit. So, what is Streamlit? It's a way to build interactive web applications. So, Streamlit is an open source Python framework that lets you build interactive web apps. So, you don't have to have any knowledge of web development or any knowledge of web languages such as JavaScript, HTML, or CSS. Through this, Streamlit allows for Python libraries to also be integrated so that you can implement data into your app, which is why one of the most common uses for Streamlit is to build an interface to show data, especially for data scientists through Python. So it also utilizes the use of APIs so that you can build apps much more quickly, which are updated automatically. These allow for the use of widgets or components, which are visualization tools provided by Streamlit, which make your web app more interactive and with very few lines of code. And so some examples are like pick a number 0 to 100. You could show data using bar graphs, have different files get dragged in, and also you could pick a date. And so there are also third-party modules that you can use for your interface to show different types of data and how to interact with it. So this bar graph right here is vertical. You can make it horizontal. There are different ways that you can make something that somebody else made with something that we're using as well. And so Streamlit was created by Adrian. Streamlit was created by Adrian Trulé, Tiago Teixeira, and Amanda Kelly, and they created it because after they were working at large tech companies, they discovered that companies today have 50 times more data than they did a decade ago, mostly because the technology is getting cheaper, but up to 90% of it is still unstructured and too hard to use. So data scientists have been missing crucial insights that could otherwise provide perspective and ideas to solve important problems, and especially communication within businesses. It's very, very important that different departments communicate with one another quickly and efficiently and effectively. So they used this open source project to help data scientists build web apps to explore the data and machine learning models. And based on their own experience, there was a need for a tool that let data scientists make the data they were working on and share it with the rest of the world or within the organization. And then they also let it be for personal use. With the community aspect, not only did they create Streamlit to share data and ideas, your web app with the world, but they also use a platform as a community for others to share ideas, thoughts, and questions. So Streamlit can also share official announcements for current and future updates. It's a great way for everybody to stay up to date, and the community grows larger and larger every day, with many different topics being created every hour. And we are actually utilizing this to ask questions and to see what has been done on Streamlit, what's possible. A lot of the stuff is over the widgets or the components that I mentioned earlier. It's just a great way to stay up to date. And then the forums and blogs, which is probably the biggest component of Streamlit. So on top of that, they also have their own forums and blogs through their own site and through social media sites like Twitter. The people who work at Streamlit write about certain questions and topics to show important information as well. Things that are going on in the world, like the supply chain crisis, how Streamlit could show data to prevent this. And this is especially important in the real world, where people in different departments at their business need to share information quickly. And another cool thing with Streamlit is that you can access any package in Anaconda or any other library for easy use with Python integration. And the best part is that to implement Streamlit, it only takes 2 pip installs. So it's very, very easy to start using. And then some examples that I found, you had the use of plotly graphs instead of using matplotlib graphs. And so it just goes to show the multitude of the packages that could be used alongside of Streamlit. And so I'll show this one really quick. So this guy created a kind of passing, shooting for whatever player you want on a soccer team, and it shows you the graph at where they were passing or shooting from. Another one was by this guy, and he was showing the time lapse of the SoFi Stadium whenever it was being built from 2005 up until now. And so it really just goes to show that Streamlit is not just for commercial use, for communication between companies or anything like that. It's not for data scientists or machine learning to be used, even though that's what it was created for. But it can be used by anyone to show or perform tasks using Python rather than having to learn or use web development tools. I know a lot of us who've used Python here at Wartburg. You might not know HTML or CSS or JavaScript. You might not even know how to create a website from scratch. Streamlit makes that super, super simple while also creating these very elegant and efficient and effective web pages. And like this guy says up here, the graphs are fully interactive, they're faster to render, and they're significantly more memory efficient than anything that he's used. So it could really be used by anybody, but Alex will show how it can be used in a real world setting.
All right, yeah. So picking up where Hoelzer left off, I'm kind of going to demonstrate and work on some of the real world applications, kind of demonstrating what Streamlit looks like, in the flesh, and seeing, some apps and demo projects where it's been used before, and kind of the applications where, somebody like you guys might want to make a project and use Streamlit for yourselves. So one of the biggest parts of Streamlit that's really important to the creators and kind of like its functionality is its ease of use and its simplicity. So kind of give some background, me and Michael, for our projects, using Streamlit, this is something that we had no experience whatsoever coming into. And being able to pick this up so quickly and deciding that we wanted to integrate this in our project, and being so available and open source and ease of use, and everything really stood out to us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate the sandbox that we've actually created. This isn't our actual project. It's just a little bit of a kind of playground for us to mess around with some of the widgets, see some of the capabilities of Streamlit. So we thought this would be a pretty cool thing to show you guys, just so you can see, like I said, in the flesh, how Streamlit works and what it looks like. So I'll close out of this, and I will open up our sandbox. Hoelzer, can you see this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, not the sandbox, but I can see the slide. You exited the slideshow.
Yeah, I'll change it to the. Okay. So for those of you unaware, this is just Visual Studio Code. This is just what I've been using for our project. Me and Hoelzer have been using for a project for our coding. And like Hoelzer mentioned, Streamlit is Python based. So all this is going to be kind of a mix of Python and Streamlit's own kind of, not necessarily language, but what they've built upon, so it's easier to use. So a lot of functions and pre-built libraries, I think you could say. So I know a lot of this straight up is very kind of in your face. You can't really tell what's going on. So I'm kind of let you take a step back. Like, I don't want you to feel like you have to take this all in. I just want to demonstrate some of the code and what it might look like, just some little snippets. So, for example, this right here is going to be one widget. So I'll show you as I demonstrate like how easy it is to open up the Streamlit and how easy it is to have the web page open up. It's just a click of a button, really. And then you're going to see that these functions actually correspond to different widgets that'll show up on the web page. They'll show certain different things. So this first one, this is going to be a data frame. And as I open it up, you'll see it in the flesh, and I'll put them side by side so you can kind of compare just how easy it is to, have this up and running in just a matter of seconds. There we go. So this is just going to run my file. You don't need to worry about necessarily everything that I have right now. Essentially, it just loads the libraries, runs the file, and activates Streamlit. So as you can see here, Streamlit processed the file, and it's going to run it. So it's telling me to run this command, which all I'm going to do is just select it, run it again, and it'll load up the web page, and eventually it'll spit out our local host. For those of you who don't really understand what this means, basically it's just a web page that's going to display, just in your browser like any other thing, but it's not actually registered as a domain, so you can't go to Google search and look it up. This is just going to be, local to my computer right now. So I'll put these side by side, and as you can see, Hoelzer, can you see both of these side by side, or just one of them?
No, just one.
Okay, I'll open it. So side by side, you can actually see our web page in comparison to the code. So this is kind of the basic layout of what a Streamlit web page is going to look like. There's a lot of customization, but it kind of has this general feel. Right now, I have mine in a dark theme. But as I was kind of talking about, you can see how each of these little snippets is going to correspond to a certain, object on the web page. So it's going to be the widgets as Streamlit kind of references them. So for this one, with the data frame, I'll highlight it just so you can kind of attract your eye to it. This is going to create a data frame table with random numbers. This data frame is actually a widget that Streamlit, it'd be this one. The ST data frame is going to be the widget that's actually incorporated with Streamlit. So it's already kind of like a pre-made object that you don't really have to do too much with. So that's going to already create this table. And then, you put in the parameters. This is just creating random numbers. It's going to put outputs like this. So, just from the simple kind of object, from the simple widget, you can see how easy it is to use. And, you don't have to build things from scratch necessarily. It's already kind of built in, and it's really, really functional and really easy to use. So as you can kind of go down, you can see, I won't go through all this because it's a lot, but you can see different data frames. Like this one, you can put highlights on it. This is just a static table. This is charts. Charts are a big part of Streamlit, and they look great, and they're super functional. Maps is a really, really cool functionality of Streamlit, and so on and so on. Sliders, checkboxes, whatnot. And another really cool thing about Streamlit is the kind of functionality it has with its sidebar. So this kind of gives Streamlit, a web page feel. It gives you the opportunity to interact almost like, you can build different tabs. You can have different menus on the side. And that's kind of something for me that really stood out to me. It's not just kind of a static web page that you scroll up and down and see what you want to see. It's more so interactive, and it makes it a little more lifelike. So the cool thing with the sidebar is you can put any widget that you put in the main page onto the sidebar. So this right here is just a drop-down box. You just have to identify in your code, it'll be sidebar. And then it's that easy. You just reference a sidebar, and you're building a widget in an object that's on the side. So that's all I have. I don't want to, do too much with the actual code, but, it is something that's super easy to pick up, something super easy to learn. There's a lot of demos online that kind of show you how to use it and what objects you can use and what widgets, and it's really easy to pick up. So now back to the slideshow. I also wanted to show you guys some real-world apps that people have built as well, just so you can kind of see, Streamlit in action. It's easy to see what it can do, but it's also cool to see, what projects have been made so far and kind of, where can you really take this. So the first one I have, this one was actually developed by Streamlit, kind of as an example to show some of its features, was an NYC Uber ride-sharing data. So what this does, it shows the transportation trends of New York City airports and Uber pickups at various times of the day. So as I'll show you guys, I'll load this up. This is the Streamlit webpage. It just loads up in a flash, and you can see, kind of the functionality of some of the widgets that are used. The slider is a big one, and then of course the maps, which are integrated with the real world. Like this is what New York looks like, as well as some of the graphs below. So this one's pretty cool. You can kind of see, at 6 o'clock and 7, this is going to be, the airports that have the most Uber traffic. Or if this one is at, 16 or 17, which is army time, it's going to be a little bit more in this airport as well as really high in this one. So you can kind of see how functional that is. Say you're an Uber driver and you want to figure out where the most traffic is going to be so you can make money. Maybe you could use an app like this and reference, some of this data, and, help bring in income and, help make you a better Uber driver. It's just things like that are really functional. You can kind of, envision different ways to use this data and kind of make it applicable to your real life. So I thought that was a cool kind of real life one that I want to show you guys. That was really useful. The second one is a little more lighthearted, but I also thought it was really cool because it tied in with kind of financials. And it's a Doge FOMO calculator. For those of you who kind of have heard of Dogecoin, it's kind of like a cryptocurrency that was really popular and got a lot of hype, and was a big talking point. And a lot of people kind of talked about, if I would have bought Dogecoin 2 years ago, imagine how much money I would have made. So for this one, which was made by David Smiley, you can actually go to the web page and it'll pop up, and it's just a picture of a dog, and you can choose the actual date. So this one is showing off kind of like the calendar function. So say I wanted to go back and see if I would have bought Doge in March 2019, and I would have bought $100 of Doge. So that's going to do some financial analysis. It's going to show the historic analysis, which would have been 671.23 Doge at a price of 14 cents. And currently that'd be worth $99.54, which actually would have.
I don't think it changed, Alex.
Oh, did I not?
I don't think the date changed.
Oh.
Yeah, there you go.
Sorry about that. There we go. We'll say, 2020. So if I would have bought $100 worth of Doge at this point in time, currently it would be worth $6,000. So that kind of, you can kind of see financials, how they'd be really cool. And that's something that we're sort of incorporating with our project without giving too much away, is going to be kind of, looking at stocks and incorporating financials and being able to visualize on a chart, which is really, really cool. So kind of looking ahead for Streamlit, I'll go back to the slide I was at. Streamlit's also really kind of pushing its avenues towards commercial cloud as well, which is kind of cool. All the things that we're using right now is all open source. It's all free to use. It's just on their website, really easy to download and use. But Streamlit's also kind of venturing into open source cloud, which is really cool. Which they have scored $35 million in funding recently for their commercial cloud service. Something that they're looking to venture into and kind of explore a little bit as well. And they're also currently in a private beta in over 700 companies for using this cloud, which is really cool. So it's kind of interesting to see, how Streamlit started just as this open source project. And, now it's actually getting real world applications on a lot of companies. And you can see, maybe it's something that we'll see in the future. And maybe something that would be worth getting hands-on experience with right now, if it does become applicable in a commercial sense and kind of grows up a bit. And that's all we have. These are our sources. And thank you guys for listening.
Thank you.